Kylie Jenner? I can't befriend her.
Because of Tina.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an episode of The Work Pod. I'm your host, Cameron Collins. And for those of you that don't know, The Work Pod is an open space where we can learn, grow, and potentially be inspired by some of our amazing guests and their awesome journeys. We're going to be covering topics like leadership, entrepreneurship, and overall business management. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, a friend, and a pioneer in the space of architecture and design here in the Middle East. In fact, the man's going global. He's the founder and director of T.ZED Architects. Tarik Al Zaharna, welcome to the show.
Hey Cam, nice. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, man. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure. I'm super excited about this, man.
As am I.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm going to start off with kind of pointing out the obvious here. That beard of yours is absolutely phenomenal.
Man, oh, thank you. It's a part of my personality right now. To be honest with you, it's an extension of my personality.
100%.
And I feel like it's become a bit of a thing that people identify me with,
You inspire me in a couple of ways, but I think the beard probably makes the top of that list.
It takes time, my man. It takes time. Patience.
100%.
Yeah, man. But you're getting there, man. You're looking good yourself, bro.
I'm trying,
honestly.
man. I'm trying. It's a little bit light, but no, what can you do?
Looking fantastic, man.
Thanks, buddy. Well, let's dive into it. We'll start with some of the basics. Please, if you can tell us who you are, what you do, where you're from, where you grew up, etc.
Honestly, it's going to be hard to beat that that introduction that you just told everyone. But so I'm Tarik Al Zaharna, as you said. I'm an architect and a designer. I've been operating in the region for over 15 years now. I call the UAE my home. I love it here. I grew up in Luxembourg. I'm of Palestinian origin. Somewhat of a global man. I've lived here and there, across Europe, obviously North America, now the Middle East, and I'd like to stay. I would like to keep it that way, to be honest with you. I'm an architect, as you'd mentioned. Sorry, I'm like repeating here, but we're gonna have to edit this.
No, go for it.
And yeah, so I started my journey early on as an architect. I mean. Growing up in Luxembourg, I was essentially building tree houses. I was very hands-on with I was very crafty, essentially. That was the thing that I enjoyed doing the most. I used to draw a lot. I used to build tree houses a lot. I used to make things and fix things. And architecture just felt like a natural transition. And when it came, when the time came to make a serious decision about my educational path after high school, and I did boarding school in Lebanon, actually, randomly, but that's where I ended up for boarding school. Architecture was just a natural next step. So I moved to London and I took up architecture as my educational path, and things just started to roll from then on, man. I moved to Germany, then the U.S., and all for the sake of just sort of trying to grow my experience and further hone my abilities as an architect and as a designer, right? So there wasn't really anything more to it. I was young, independent, nothing was holding me down. It's just like, all right, I'm going to throw myself at any situation and try to learn from it. And so I tried to diversify my experiences of life or in life. And then one thing led to another. Kept hearing about Dubai. And I came for a Christmas holiday, and then all of a sudden, I ended up living here because it was just a place that intrigued me. So 15 years later, here I am.
15 years, practically Emirati.
Practically Emirati, man. Practically Emirati. I do feel very much at home.
And so how has your experience been here in the UAE? I mean, as a globally traveled young man, would you say that this is where you're going to spend the rest of your life, or you have plans to maybe jump ship and jump around?
I think one of the many great things about being here is that it just felt like a very sort of natural transition, and Dubai specifically is a very global city, so it allowed me to really just plug in almost seamlessly, and it allowed me to sort of it was the perfect sort of place or a perfect platform for me to sort of continue applying all the sort of skills and experiences that I've had elsewhere in my natural sort of my day-to-day living here. I'm not explaining it the best way, but I just feel like, being here has allowed me to not only sort of, continue my experiences and my journey in architecture, but it just allowed me to be, how do you say? It was just I don't know, man. It just feels like home.
Yeah.
It felt very familiar from the start.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would very much like to continue my journey here. Absolutely.
No, I feel you. I mean, I myself have been here for 21, 22
Nice.
years, so definitely consider this home too. And I would say kind of one of the main advantages of living in a city like Dubai or maybe Singapore or Hong Kong is the exposure to such a diverse community.
Correct.
I mean, it's an education that you can't even pay for that. It's
100%.
learnings that can't be replaced, right? And
Absolutely.
we see a lot of universities abroad that kind of boast on their diversity figures, 35 nationalities, and you're like, well, I had that in my PE class,
100%.
It's unbelievable. And so maybe talk to us a little bit around maybe how you've learned from different behaviors, backgrounds, cultures. I'm assuming that's something that you value as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's especially in my career. I mean, in my industry, but also, I mean, I think it can apply to every industry in Dubai and in the UAE. You're bound to sort of deal with people from different backgrounds, different cultures, and sort of that adds another layer of sort of richness to, I mean, the most basic thing, like conversations or the way that people apply themselves or how things are done. And you don't have to really sort of look too far. I mean, we have our second office in Europe, and I love it for everything that it is. But you come back and you realize that there is that sort of can-do attitude that the UAE has, right? It's always sort of forward-thinking, and we're always asking why not. There's no real limitations as to what we can explore and what we can do. And I think a large part of that is, of course, like you said, like the diverse group of people and the sort of the different cultures and nationalities, and everyone wants to sort of bring in their own influence without overstepping the line, with regards to offending others. It's just sort of the perfect melting pot.
100%.
And you can just sort of pick all the things that you want from it and then sort of create a new identity, right?
Definitely.
As a result, which I think is very unique.
Yeah.
Can't really think of another place that does that in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You mentioned about kind of like limitations or the lack thereof. I think people flock to this city or really to this region.
Correct.
Because the opportunity to grow is a lot. It's a lot faster. It's a lot fast-paced, and I think you can break those career ceilings, if you will, in a city like Dubai, just because of the types of people that kind of flock here.
100%. I think the city has allowed me to sort of discover new things about myself, and I'm really saying that wholeheartedly and in full transparency, because training as an architect or as a designer, essentially you're sort of, it's weird, right? Because it's an oxymoron. You're supposed to be a free thinker, but you're sort of almost indoctrinated to think like an architect or think like a designer or be a certain way. But actually what the UAE has allowed me to do is to sort of use those skill sets that I had learned in the past and develop from them, and has allowed me to sort of create or pave a new path with regards to what architecture and design means, not just to me, but to the region and for the region. So it's like, that is honestly, again, like a phenomenon in itself. Like we have now an opportunity to create a new design language. We have an opportunity to rethink the way we do things, and to apply that here. I mean, it's amazing.
I mean, such a fresh city. What did we celebrate? 41 years last year, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that it feels as though that you're contributing and shaping the way that design and architecture is looked at in the region. So it must be a very, very exciting time for you and your team.
Super exciting, honestly. And I think, and there's just so much high regard. I mean, that's the thing, right? That's the other thing. It's just that when you put one good foot forward, it's reciprocated 10 times back, right? It's just like when you set out to do something that is, of course, a personal endeavor, but you feel that it's for the greater good. For example, just trying to identify the contemporary design language or the contemporary architectural language of the region, you'll find that people sort of, resonate with that, and they respond well to that, and they want to have conversations with you. They want you to design their buildings and their spaces. It's a lot less bureaucratic in that sense,
Sure.
and a lot more sort of driven by this sort of vision.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into the process of setting up a company here in the UAE. What were your challenges? What were you pleasantly surprised about? For example, opening up a bank account. I mean, that is a pretty daunting challenge as an entrepreneur trying to establish themselves and create their own company.
Yeah.
Would you highlight anything else that's kind of a bit of a challenge, or that you were pleasantly surprised about the ease or seamlessness of the process?
So I think one of the things that I've sort of taught myself to, or trained myself to think, or one of the things that I've sort of taught myself is to think of every challenge as something that is that is something that's going to help in your growth, right? And you always ask, what is the sort of the alternative? What is the next scenario? What is the other scenario? And what I mean by that is, sort of not to speak in the abstract, is, of course, there are challenges in setting up a business, because the most challenging thing is, I'm constantly facing that, is that what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Yep.
You need a bank account, but you need a minimum amount to deposit in an account, but you need to start the business to make that money to deposit. So it's like, it's one of those, but it's strange, and I don't know whether it's specific to, well, it's certainly, I mean, very unique here, but it's, somehow it works.
Yeah.
Somehow you find a way to make it work. And I think that is, again, it's just how the city has sort of taught or molded me to think. Instead of saying, okay, well, here's a roadblock, I need to have X amount in the bank account in order to make it, active. But then, obviously you need to start the business to make that amount. I'm on, not to sort of showboat or anything, but it's the third business that I open here.
Mabruk.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
Alhamdulillah, thank you. And it's, Allah barik lak, thank you. And it's each one of them came with a challenge, but I've also opened a business in Luxembourg, and I can tell you for certain that the process here is a lot more streamlined.
Excellent.
And it's a lot more focused towards entrepreneurs. It's a lot more focused towards facilitating anybody who's here to essentially conduct business and to prosper.
Yeah, I mean, on a similar topic, I think there's a lot of initiatives that have been kind of cascaded down by the leadership. I mean, we're looking at some sort of incubators and accelerators that have heavily subsidized rates for business licenses, for visas, for medical insurance, so on and so forth. You're also looking at potentially a golden visa. I think a new concept that was introduced 2 years ago, maybe
Correct.
a year and a half ago.
Correct.
Have you tapped into any of these ecosystems that have kind of not only enabled, encouraged, and incentivized employees to grow, but facilitated the process, made the journey a lot more seamless, as you were talking about?
So to be honest with you, yes. I mean, it's. I think it's hard to sort of evade it, and I don't think anyone in their right mind should steer away from the opportunities that we have here. There are several initiatives, of course. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about the initiative that His Highness Sheikh Hamdan has sort of announced with regards to Al-Quoz, and anyone who's taken up a space in Al-Quoz and is willing to invest in refurbishing their space. I think they get subsidized or free rent or something like that for X amount of years. Don't quote me because I'm not entirely sure, but something like that. And I think that's great because it helps sort of gentrify a very sort of industrial part of the city. T.ZED Architects Dubai is based in Dubai Design District, and again, honestly, it was because some of our earlier works that had fallen under the radar of the authorities there, and they were very appreciative and very complimentary to it, and invited us to come to set up our office in D3, and we haven't looked back since, honestly. And prior to that, my dear friend and brother Salim Al-Qasimi was also very kind and generous in offering me his or a segment of his office space in Sharjah. So he's the principal of Fikra Designs, a very successful and one of the first graphic design companies in the UAE to do both English and Arabic sort of graphic design. I think established in 2008, but again, I have to check that. So one of the earlier ones, And all of that is to say that essentially there is really an appreciation for people who want to do their best, give their best, and really believe in the system that we're part of and the system that we're contributing in. And I'm one of the lucky people who's actually been offered the golden visa, so I'm very humbled and very appreciative of that. And honestly, what that's done is that it made me want to set up the two other businesses.
Yeah.
It's made me want to even have deeper roots in Dubai and in the UAE, because it just, it's a great feeling, man.
Yeah.
You have this, so you're giving your heart and your soul, and you have this vision that you're trying to execute, and you're trying to sort of accomplish whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish endlessly, and then the appreciation is shown. So it ultimately makes you want to give more, and I think that's a fantastic initiative, and I'm very, very blessed.
Yeah, I mean, the basic components of kind of engaging not only maybe your employees or your community or your society, recognizing achievements, right, and incentivizing the successful completion of goals or milestones. So certainly resonate what you're saying. Fantastic initiative.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's a good segue into kind of our next topic here, which is diving a little bit deeper into T.ZED architects, right? I've had the privilege of kind of roaming around several of your projects, and I have to say that they stand out like sore thumbs.
Thank you.
It's in a positive way, obviously.
Thanks.
It's a very clear indication, and I believe there's a bit of consistency across all the work that you've done. So maybe walk us through what you would consider some of your top or most valued achievements.
Thanks, Cam. Honestly, I appreciate that, and yeah, there's nothing that makes me happier than people sort of enjoying the projects and the spaces that we've created. That's the name of the game, right?
That's the goal.
That is the goal. To be honest with you, every project that we do take on is, it's we're a boutique firm. I'd like to keep it that way. We've tried this whole sort of expansionist mentality where we wanted to grow into 40 individuals, 40 architects and designers. Yeah. And get the corporate clients and all the rest of it. But what I found quickly is that it sort of diverts us from the objective. And the objective, as I'd mentioned earlier, is to really find the beautiful and refined contemporary language of architecture and design in the region. And the minute you sort of step away from being really hands-on and getting your hands dirty, is the minute you sort of diverge from the course and you steer away from the course. So I try to avoid that. It's difficult. Alhamdulillah, it's difficult for good reasons. It's because people are trying to get our attention here and there. But one of the ways and one of our strategies is to stay very humble and sort of quiet about the work that we do. Of course, I mean, it's a commercial practice, so we have to promote it to some extent. Otherwise, no one will hear about us.
Yeah.
But I like it when people hear and see some of our spaces that see and experience, rather, some of the spaces that we've designed. And of course, that sort of spans across the hospitality sector. We're very sort of active in the private, high-end sort of residences, commercial spaces, boutique hotels. And then we do passion projects that are a little bit more sort of public. So we do restaurants across the region, and for very selective clients, because we always want to be speaking to clients who understand our objective. We want to be speaking to clients who understand the importance of contextual design. We want to be speaking to people who understand the importance of detailing and materials. Can I swear? I can't swear. I won't swear.
I don't think there's swearing.
I won't swear. But no one has time, and no one should have time for just sort of nonsense designs, just to sort of, create single dimension spaces that don't last the test of time.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm interested in, and it's fair enough. I mean, there are people for that. It's not T.ZED architects, but each to their own. But it's always finding, or the clients that find us are ones that really want to get involved in the design process, or they're the clients that just get, they understand that their houses, or their homes rather, that we're building are homes rather than houses.
Yeah.
It's places that they're going to have experiences in. Inshallah, always great experiences, but sometimes people get sad, sometimes people are happy. So it's like you're creating memories in these spaces. So you have to approach them with a certain sense of, or certain level of delicacy, that, and I'm not comparing ourselves to doctors, but maybe surgeons. You know,
Sure.
when you go to a doctor or surgeon, they have to diagnose you, they have to assess what's wrong with you, and then they sort of, essentially find a remedy. And this is what we're trying to do with our work. We're essentially trying to pick apart the problem and create a solution that is long lasting.
Well, I think it's very clear that kind of the passion flows through your veins. In fact, it oozes out your pores. And I think any passionate entrepreneur, obviously with the right mindset, with the right experience, with the right know-how, is bound to be successful. So my brother, wishing you the best luck for the future. Although we're not ending the podcast yet.
We're not ending. Starting.
Exactly.
Nice.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into maybe a project that you're most passionate about. Maybe you can touch on a project that has integrated technology with design, with architecture.
So I think, well, for sure, every project that we take on, we have to be passionate about. Otherwise, it's not worth anybody's time, right? We have to really sort of get behind it, believe in it, and believe it or not, I don't want to be insulting to whoever is watching, but a lot of the projects we do turn down just because we can't imagine ourselves engaging with the project, as lovely as the clients may be, for an extended amount of time without sort of losing focus. And
is that because of their vision and how it conflicts, or
less about their vision, more about our vision, right? So if it's not entirely aligned, we like to learn from every project that we do, right?
Yeah.
And if that's not there, and we're just doing more of the same, I think it becomes redundant, right? No one wants to sort of do something that's not challenging them to some extent, right? You can just imagine how boring life would be. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. Can you imagine sort of waking up doing the same thing over and over and over again with no challenges?
I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of our discussion how challenges actually are very valuable and important life lessons, and without challenges, there's no growth. So
absolutely, that's exactly it. You just said it a lot better than I did.
No,
so thank you. I'm going to take that. So we want to learn from every project that we do, and and in parallel, we want to also sort of diversify our experiences. So we don't want to just focus specifically at doing one thing really, really well.
Yeah.
Like we want to sort of, I think if you sort of do not many things, but multiple things, then you can have a sort of a skill set that overlaps.
Yeah.
One of the projects that I found particularly interesting is essentially it was a repeat client, and most of our clients are in fact repeat clients. Alhamdulillah, so that's great. And it's for Dubai Future Foundation, and I'm not sure if you've seen on the DIFC roundabout those three main masses, sort of curved masses, and they're essentially 3D printed buildings that sit on the main roundabout in DIFC.
Yes.
And we were lucky enough to win the essentially the appointment for that project, and it was. I mean, it had started because we had done the robotics lab, which is now Dubai Future Foundation's office.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sort of approached us as a continuation to redesign the 3D building there. And, to do something like that, I mean, 3D printing is the future, right? Well, at the same time, although it's very sort of technology focused, our appointment to the project, or our role, was to sort of relook at the space in its entirety, from the landscaping to the architectural finishes on the outside. We didn't want to touch the structure. We wanted to maintain the 3D printed structures as they are, and moving into the interiors to create sort of more flexible spaces for the use that the Dubai Future Foundation looked to have. And of course, Dubai Future Foundation is an entity that looks forward to the future. I mean, it's in the name. Well, at the same time, we wanted it to be something that is very tactile and something that people can sort of move into with regards to a space and feel comfortable using and comfortable being in. So we had to sort of delicately play the balance, or play the role of architect / therapist / lighting designer / landscape designer, psychologist, just everything together. Yeah. And we created, in my opinion, what is a very beautiful space indeed, but very successful, because every sort of it's sort of deconstructed volumes that sit within a landscape is probably one of the good ways to describe it. And every one of these volumes has a function, but it's not a single purpose. It's a very hybrid program that is in every space. So we needed to create an auditorium that doubles up as a meeting space. We needed to create an entrance lounge that doubles up as a sort of a meeting point where people can start to talk about the existing structure. And we've exposed the 3D printed structure on the inside of the building.
Beautiful.
And then you move into the space, and then it transforms into a lounge, but also a space where people can work from. And then as you move deeper into the space, you start to access the more private spaces. We have closed off, essentially soundproof meeting rooms and work pods where people can sort of have a moment on their own and get things done more efficiently. And then the space sort of deconstructs and opens itself up. And I'm not exaggerating by saying it actually opens itself up to shared office spaces, and then deeper into the boardroom. And that's all sort of connected through this sort of strings of walkways on the outside of the building. And we've used indigenous plants, and we've tried to remain sort of contextual as much as possible. And we've had very good feedback. But aside from that, I think it's a true demonstration of how technology and architecture can benefit humans.
Yeah.
And this is something that we should never forget. I think there's this great push towards technology always, and I'm all for it. And we're adopting new technologies in our designs, and in our office. But at least, I mean, it's a personal point of view that we have to design for humans, or we have to design not just for humans, but for the spaces and the buildings to be successfully used. And so I think that was a great demonstration of that balance.
Beautiful. I mean, I think regardless of the industry, technology really has the power to optimize, to reduce costs,
correct,
to reduce carbon emissions.
Absolutely.
Lots of ways that you can implement technology, specifically in architecture and design, to really optimize the space.
100%.
I read something not so long ago about a particular elevator, and actually I got two stories on elevators, funny enough.
Nice.
The first one is Krupson and something. Any idea what?
You're on your own.
Krupson and something.
The lift company.
The lift company.
Oh, yeah.
Krupson and Tyson or something along those lines.
Yeah.
They had a partnership with Microsoft, and they implemented a predictive analytics / machine learning device.
Nice.
And it would assess the rate at which the elevator climbed and assess the rate at which the elevator descended.
Nice.
And based on the decrease of that rate, it would flag to a maintenance team that the elevator then required maintenance. Nice. And it would automatically alert everybody. Nice. and schedule the maintenance of that elevator. Amazing. I mean, that is technology at its finest.
100%. And I agree. And I love technology when it's like that. And it's almost sort of non-invasive, right? It's there for a reason. It's there to keep us safe. It's there to keep things efficient. I'm a little skeptical about when technology starts to take over what we can do. That's the only thing that I'm not old-fashioned, maybe a little bit of a traditionalist, but I think that's where I sort of start to raise my eyebrows and I start to ask more questions. And I wouldn't dismiss it, but I'll ask more questions, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that.
I guess not.
Let's move into the topic of sustainable development.
Yeah.
I spent a good 2 or 3 years in Australia in the land down under.
Yes.
And I did my bachelor's of business, and in parallel I decided to focus a little bit on sustainable development. So by no means an expert, nothing like yourself, but have a little bit of know-how in the space. And
nice.
We took a lot of courses in a sustainably developed building.
Nice.
Again, touching on elevators, this elevator generated energy on the way down to power itself back up.
Yeah.
I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
A couple of the classrooms had natural ventilation systems, much like Moroccan or local buildings. Yeah. Quadruple glazed glass windows to maintain that Correct. Temperature. Have you been inspired by, or are you currently using sustainable practices to drive down emission?
Look, the short answer is yes. The long answer is... Yeah, man, how honest can I be here? Look, it's sustainability isn't something that we should, I don't know, use as a marketing tool.
Sure.
I think as architects, as individuals, screw it. Let's not. Can I say screw it?
Of course.
Okay. Let's not think about architects and designers. Let's just talk about human beings. I think inherently in us, all of us, consciously and subconsciously, we need to think about the environment.
Sure.
I'll put that as a preface. However, to design a building to make it look like something that is, I don't know, come out of Chernobyl, just to tick off some boxes about sustainability and platinum LEED and all the rest of it, I'm not a fan of. I think you can have a sustainable building, and as architects we are trained, or we should be more trained, depending on when you started practicing, but we should be more trained on sustainability. But sustainability is, of course, has a lot to do with positioning of buildings, the amount of openings in a building, the percentage of glazed facades or glazed elevations in a building, the materials that are used, thinking about passive cooling. All of these things contribute to sustainability. And one of our sort of plugins with regards to sustainability is we've designed, for example, the Koa Canvas development in
beautiful
Al-Barar.
space.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And then, of course, that's what houses Nasab and Low and now Canvas Events Pavilion. So a lot happening there, and the developer is a very switched on, very creative young man, and his wife, of course. They're dynamic duo, very forward thinking, and that has allowed us to essentially use for the first time in the region, at that scale, thermally modified natural tulip wood on the facade.
Can you repeat that again, but a little bit faster?
All right. I've said it so many times I can do it.
You can do it.
I can do it. So thermally modified natural timber on the facade, and you can imagine in the climate that we're in, that's going to shock people. Like we can barely use timber floors internally, let alone on the facade. And I think it's its 4th or 5th year up now. I don't know. I can't remember. But it's every time I go, it feels like it's my first time. But the timber is there. It's doing its job, which is to shade the building, which is to reduce the amount of FCU output or AC output to cool the building. Obviously, electric bills go down, efficiency goes up. And that's using natural timber. So everyone's just like, it's natural timber. Where are the trees? Where are the tulip wood trees that you're getting this from? But of course, these are sustainably sourced pieces of timber and certified by the American Hardwood Export Council, to the point where they had done a sort of investigation, or a study rather, to see the carbon footprint that was required to transport these, that has been offset by the amount of trees that have been planted, or however they sourced it sustainably. And in fact, we were in the green zone. And honestly, all it took was myself saying, we need to be the first to do this, and just researching that.
Pioneer, my friend.
Thank you, brother.
Trailblazing.
Thank you. Unintentionally, right? It's just you wanted to make something work, and it had a purpose, because there's an amphitheater, I wanted to shade it. I'm not a fan of just saying, okay, let's just use the most efficient glass, and the most efficient facade insulation, and the most efficient passive cooling techniques. And I know it's controversial for me to say that, because what you end up with is a building that looks like a factory that no one wants to be in. And we forget the human aspect that we talk about.
For sure. Well, you mentioned about kind of leaving a carbon footprint, and I guess it starts with the sourcing of the material all the way to the execution of the project, right?
Correct.
Let's move into the digital space where there is no carbon footprint.
Oh, man. Is there no carbon footprint?
I don't know. You tell me.
All right, okay, so that's the thing. There's always a caveat, right?
Are you looking to the future? Is there a possibility where T.ZED Architects develop some kick-ass real estate, commercial, residential, in the metaverse?
So we are looking into that. But that's just more of a sort of a thesis that we're doing internally in the office, to say, what can we do when there are no restrictions, when there are no building guidelines, no planning permissions required, no municipality requirements? What can we do? What does the metaverse look like if T.ZED were to design it? This is more of a thesis, more of a sort of because we're always doing these things in the office. We're sort of, we're always busy. We're always busy exploring and investigating. We're in that space, and more to come soon. However, on your point of sustainability, it's not the most sustainable. It's as most would have you think.
Because those servers are pumping.
Man, they're churning out.
Yeah.
I think it's smart if you use the thermal sort of capacity or the thermal output for different uses. Then we're in discussions here. That sounds great. But yeah, we're interested. We're very much in it. It's a bit of a conflict of how we like to do things, which is very much tactile. We're very much hands-on.
Yeah.
But how does an architectural practice that prides itself on details and materials translate into the metaverse?
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting one.
Yeah. When I we're onto something. We can discuss this maybe in 6 months' time.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Likewise.
Let's maybe move into, a similar space, but NFTs. Right? How do you beautify your space? What is the true utility of NFTs? Do you have appreciation for some of NFTs that are out there? Namely, the Fidenza. That is a beautiful piece of art. I'm not sure what you can do with it, other than put it in maybe a T.ZED architect's residential property. But what's your views on this space?
Look, I think it's interesting. I'm not one to knock anything that I'm not totally sort of well versed in and that I don't totally understand, but I like the fact that I don't understand it. If you're asking me personally, I'm in two minds about it, but I'm also a collector of NFTs, and the way I do it essentially, I've dabbled. It sounds like it's taboo, but I've tried it, and I've tried two different strategies. And one is to say, look, I'm going to do this because I can flip it for X amount of ETH later on. Look at the lingo, right? And then I've done it because I'm like, wow, this is an interesting artwork. I'd like to have it, and I can afford it. Let me get it.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say I appreciate the latter more. I don't like the rat race and this sort of anxiousness of just like getting something and flipping it, and it just goes against everything that I sort of have been inherently taught and stand for. Because if it's easy come, it's easy go.
Yep.
That's really what I think. But I appreciate good art. I appreciate that art is moving into the digital space. I think one of the very sort of prominent and very, very talented artists, Rami Afifi, a dear friend of mine and a brother, he's been digital whenever, however early on people could be digital. And I think a lot of people are doing interesting things. And I think whatever it is, if you're interested in art, the number one rule for me is you should like what you're purchasing or what you're buying into.
Yeah, flipping a piece just becomes stressful. I think both of us have seen it firsthand, how it actually starts to consume people's lives.
Correct.
So I couldn't agree with you more, right? If you're going in on a project, go in it for the love of that piece, as opposed to attempting to profit or make some money.
And imagine it on your wall in a space that T.ZED Architects designed. How amazing is that?
There we go. There's a very interesting project that I've heard about now. It's called Ludo Labs. I'm not sure if it rings any bells, but it's certainly a project that I went in not because I wanted to flip. Not necessarily because I was passionate about it, about that particular piece of art, but more for the utilities.
Right.
Which is in my opinion, a very interesting discussion. Their utilities at the bottom range, I guess, starts from being able to chat with a football player in the Discord group.
That's cool.
It goes all the way up to potentially being invited to sit in a box seat, watch your favorite player, in a stadium of your choice,
I can get behind that.
100%. That's incredible. When there's true utility behind an NFT or behind a certain project, I think that's also maybe another reason to buy into that.
Correct. I completely agree, and I have heard of Ludo Labs, and the gentleman behind it, the team, just solid team, right? So I can back them just for understanding what the team is, because that's. I think one of the things about NFTs as well, one of the real things about NFTs is that you can start to research who's behind it and what they're trying to achieve. And with Ludo Labs, from the very little that I know, to be honest with you, I didn't read too much into it. But very solid team, and I think they know what they're doing. And like you said, if there's something sort of that is a bit more tangible, I think it's got legs. People can get behind that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's move on to our next segment, which is fire questions, right?
Damn.
I'm going to say one word.
Yeah.
And then just tell me what you think, what you feel, what you've experienced.
You sure we can't censor some of these things? Okay.
Let's start with the first
coffee.
one. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Visionary. Tell us a little bit more. Dive a little bit deeper.
Oh, I'm not supposed to give you one answer?
Yeah, I'll say one word. You tell me what you think,
word,
you feel, sentence, paragraph, whatever you want.
I can say a lot. One of the things that I can say is that I'm extremely proud that an Arab leader is able to sort of pave the way and the path for everyone that is from the region and internationally to be able to sort of plug into the vision that he has for Dubai, for the UAE. I think it's something that is honestly very, very rare, if at all heard of in this day and age, for someone to have such a vision for their emirate or their state and to get everybody behind them. And I think, what the oasis that he's managed to sort of create in the region is something that is a lifeline for a lot of people from not just the region, but internationally and globally, and created such an international hub in a place that's already sort of been on its back foot thanks to international media sometimes. Maybe it's, they're sort of challenging the general sort of consensus and the general outlook on the region. So I think, the positivity that emanates from Dubai is very much thanks to His Highness. The opportunities that are created is very much thanks to His Highness and the vision that we all plug into and we're behind. And hats off, because His Highness has managed to create this wonderful ecosystem for all of us to sort of be in happily, prosper, be safe, and really, truly feel like home. You've been here for over 20 years. I've been here. I'm coming on to 16 soon. It's I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
The bottom line is that His Highness is inspiring leaders from around the region to replicate. I mean, it's a copy and paste of best practice. He's set the stage. He's set the mark. And everybody's kind of following suit, which is incredible for not only this city and this country, but the region as a whole.
100%.
Right, next word here. Wealth.
Subjective. I'm not supposed to give you one word?
You can give me one word. You can give me a sentence. You can just speak how you feel.
Wealth, man. Wealth is something that what is wealth, right? Like, I think... There's wealth in sort of fulfillment of your calling, fulfillment of your objectives, fulfillment of the soul. Not to get too
get there, baby,
philosophical about it. But, it's wealth. I found when I do more and spend less. I mean, of course, I'm happier. But it's when you sort of, how do you say it, when you consume less and you do more and make more and explore more and do the basic simple things that make you happy, that is wealth, man.
Yeah.
That is wealth. Peace of mind.
Beautifully said, man. Happiness.
Me, Tina, Pluto. Together.
You, Tina, Pluto.
Yeah, that's
beautiful.
Happiness. Yeah.
That is happiness.
Tina's my wife. It's not some random chick.
Lucky Lucy, I like to call her.
Lucky Lucy. Scooch is what I call her.
Scooch.
Yeah.
Wedding.
It's an annual affair.
There we go. Lastly, jiu-jitsu.
It's a lifestyle, man. It's a lifestyle. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is something else. And that's really thanks to a couple of people. So that's Professor Thabit and of Entropy Jiu-Jitsu in Alcoz, and who's a dear friend and a brother, and then also John Pender, also a dear friend and a brother. Both of these masters and jiu-jitsu practitioners are not only sort of role models in the jiu-jitsu field, but also have given me the pieces of the puzzle that allow me to think outside the box in day-to-day situations.
Unbelievable.
Anyone who has not tried jiu-jitsu, you are missing out. It's not No, let me rephrase that. It is something that might seem scary to get into, but if we ever have kids, that's, you know, from the day that they can walk or crawl, I'm putting them on a jiu-jitsu mat. Everyone needs to try it. It's chess for the mind. It is so healthy for you, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Everyone needs to get into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've dabbled in a little bit of kind of mixed martial arts, haven't invested more than a couple of classes, you know, but certainly when you step into these types of environments, you start to understand the life lessons that are brought you, you know,
Humility,
things like discipline.
Yes.
For sure. A crucial component of life that is not only used in the practice, but can also be used outside.
Absolutely. So we need to go together then.
Let's do it. Yeah. I'll take you down, my friend.
You will. You probably will at this stage, man.
Walk us through, I mean, the kind of the belt system. What belt are you on? Where are you striving to be? Is your end goal, you know, having that black belt strapped around your waist?
You know, so the end, it would be nice to have that. I'm not sure it's the end goal. I don't think, and this is the battle that I always have, I don't think I'm worthy of it, right? Because there's my other passion, which is architecture, which is a blissful distraction because I don't think it's a time waster. I don't invest as much time as I would like to in jiu-jitsu, but I don't regret it because I'm investing it in, you know, T.ZED Architects, which is my main passion. I'm just a blue belt with a single stripe. And I've been sitting on that belt for a while, so I feel like my skill sets is improving. However, I do miss promotions. I want to remain a blue belt just because whenever I do train and roll with my comrades and colleagues and practitioners, I'm given humble pie, which is great. I think that's how everyone should feel. You walk in, you could be on top of the world. You know, I just designed the building and it's being built. It's 15 stories high. You know, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Shut up. You're getting choked out.
Sit down.
Sit down. You're getting smashed, boy. So it's nice. You know, it's nice. And I feel like it's good lesson of humility.
Now, do you watch MMA? Are you into the UFC?
I do watch MMA. I watch the main big fights. I'm not a violent person. I don't particularly like seeing people get smashed in the face and kicked in the head. But, you know, if there's a big fight, I can get behind it. Yeah, I love the athleticism of it.
Is there anybody in particular? I was going to ask you maybe who's your favorite MMA fighter? I don't know, maybe in the way that they move or fight. Maybe it's their persona. Maybe it's the way that they carry themselves. Is there a name that comes to top of mind?
There's how old are you?
Ooh, almost lost train there.
Keep
30.
that pause. Whoa, 30.
30.
Your birthday's coming up soon.
Just passed.
What?
Yeah, just passed.
Oh, happy birthday, man.
Thank you,
Look how that...
Well, November, so quite some time ago, but yeah.
Nice, happy birthday, belated.
Thank you, sir.
30, nice, that's a good one. So do you remember a fighter called Carlos Condit?
I don't.
Okay, so Carlos Condit, I really appreciated the way he moved. He was very technical in his movements. I really like Habib Nurmagomedov's wrestling style. It's just like gnarly wrestling. It just almost looks like the people are drowning. Also, I got behind his story, which I think is a big part.
Yeah.
And of course, Hamzat Chimaev. I just think he's a character to watch.
Yeah.
I'd run out of any room he walked into, but I like that, you know. So these three guys, I think they're quite inspirational.
Khabib seems to have the hearts and the minds of everybody in this region. I mean, his support here is absolutely incredible.
Like, I mean, it's almost like watching a Rocky movie, right? Like he sort of came out of nothing, undefeated, you know, beats the bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, McGregor's not the bad guy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then you know the story with his father, God rest his soul, and it's just everyone can sort of get behind that.
No, 100%. All right, well let's move into another segment of fire questions.
Sure.
All right, and I don't know if you've heard of that. Is it a game? I'm not sure if it's called a game, but it's like sleep with. Kiss, and you know, like there's three options.
Married man, bro. What are you talking about?
but rather.
Tina.
It's Tina. Rather, it's more about who would you be a business partner with,
Okay.
Who would you like to befriend?
Yeah.
And who would you never go into business with? Right, so you have 3 options here.
It's getting controversial.
Yeah. The first is Elon Musk. The second is Oprah Winfrey. And the third is Jeff Bezos.
Ah, okay. So like go into business with, not go into business with, or
Yeah. Steer clear of and
Yeah.
And befriend.
I'd befriend Oprah. I think she's got lots of stories and she's a character.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go into business with Jeff Bezos, and I'd work with Elon Musk.
Why wouldn't you go into business with Mr. Bezos?
Depends who's going to hear this. No, I think no, I just well, it's by default because I'd like to go into business with Elon Musk because I think what he's doing is creative, it's fun, it's playful. Yeah. I'd like to get involved. Jeff Bezos, I'm not. I mean, yeah, he's successful, but I mean it's not necessarily something I can relate to.
And you were forced to bucketize, right? You were forced to throw somebody in that bucket. So
That's it.
Same question. Kanye West, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner? I can't befriend her.
Because of Tina.
Yes. I would. No, I'd be. So who's it again? Sorry.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Kanye West, Kylie Jenner.
I would not go into business with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Mm-hmm.
I would work with Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'd befriend Kylie Jenner.
Bucketize. Blame it on the buckets.
Seriously.
All right, Tarik, I think we're kind of nearing the end of the episode. So I'm going to ask a few kind of like closing questions. It's more about possibly giving the audience some tips, some tricks, some advice. So what's one piece of advice you would have given yourself back in the day if you had the chance?
If I had the chance, maybe, I don't know, something really boring like spend time with family. More time with family.
Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful answer. I don't see any flaw in that answer.
Yeah,
I think I would apply probably a similar piece of advice myself.
Nice.
Another one, but what question do you wish I would have asked today that I didn't get to ask or didn't manage to ask?
That's another good one. Damn. I wish you would have asked where I see myself in 10 years.
All right, answer that. Where do you see yourself in 10 years, my friend?
Well, as the legacy that I would leave behind, hopefully, maybe longer than 10 years, but as one of the pioneers to have dictated and resolved and discovered the regional architectural and design language of the Middle East. That's what I would like to have done. Well, Tarik, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Work Pod. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much for coming, my friend. Thanks really a lot, appreciate man. It. That was good fun. A perfect example of dreaming big, working hard, and hustling to his fullest potential. See you later.